When we talk about photographic equipment, we're normally talking about cameras, lenses, filters, tripods. But after we've been out and shot the image, we're normally bringing it back somewhere and processing it, and that means we need a computer. So the computer is an important piece of photographic equipment, certainly for me. And I've just bought a new one to do my photographic processing and also to do my video processing. So I thought in this video I'd talk you through why I've bought a new computer, what I've bought, the reasons why I've made the choices that I have, and give you some first impressions on the new kit that I've got. And hopefully you'll find it interesting. Hi everyone, thanks for joining me. So this video is about computers, but most of my videos are landscape photography out in the field. So if you're new here, why not go and check out some of my other videos, and if you like that kind of thing, don't forget to hit subscribe. But this video, as I said, is about computers. Now I've been using this computer, which is a 21.5-inch iMac, for a long time. In fact, this is a 2011 iMac, and I've had it pretty much since 2011, so it's 9 years old. And I've actually been really impressed that a 9-year-old computer has actually continued to let me do what I need to do. But to be fair, for the last 2 years, it's been struggling a little bit with some of the processing that I want to do, and I've been toying with the idea of buying a new one. So I've finally pressed the button, bit the bullet, whatever you want to say, and I've bought a new computer, and it's in here. Okay, I wasn't going to do an unboxing, but this is what I've got. This is a 2020 MacBook Air. This wasn't even on my list of things to buy earlier this year, or earlier in 2020. And let me just talk you through my thinking processes. My old iMac, as I said, was over 9 years old. It was getting a bit slow, and at the end of 2020 I was no longer able to update the operating system on it, and then no longer able to update to the latest versions of Lightroom and Photoshop. So I really needed to buy something new, and also, if I'm honest, I've been kind of struggling to do post-processing videos because I kept getting crashes when I was running Lightroom, Photoshop and screen recording software. So I really needed to buy a new one, and I've been umming and ahhing about this for 2 years to be honest. One part of me said, well, if I buy a Windows machine, then I've got, the potential to upgrade some of the hardware on it later on to keep up. But I've got to be honest, I do like Macs. I like the Mac operating system. I don't think they're better than Windows machines. It's just a matter of personal preference. And logically speaking, the best option for me is a desktop machine, because I don't do a lot of travelling. Most of the time when I'm working on images, etc., I'm working here in the office. But there are times when a laptop computer or a small, portable computer would be useful, either for when I just don't want to work in the office, or for, when we do go travelling. So I've been looking at laptops, but it was only really in December 2020 that the new M1 chip from Apple started to grab my attention. I had some feedback from people on various places. I did loads of reviews, and ultimately I decided to buy this. So this is, as I said, the 2020 MacBook Air. It's really small, really light, but it's got this M1 chip in, which everybody's been saying is really, really good, really, really fast. So I'm going to kind of put that to the test a little bit. Everybody's been saying that the base model of this is, pretty good. It's good. It worked well enough. I did decide to go up spec a little bit not for better performance now, but hopefully to future-proof things a little bit. So this has got the 8-core rather than the 6-core processor, and it's got 16 gig of RAM rather than the standard 8. Whether that makes a lot of difference now, I don't know, but I just feel that for the little bit of extra cost, hopefully it'll help to future-proof things. So of course the problem with something like this, it's a 13-inch MacBook, and the problem with a 13-inch screen is it's not great for photo and video editing. So I'm hooking it up to this. Now this is a BenQ PD3200U. It's a 32-inch 4K monitor. Now I will be honest, again, this wasn't the monitor that I was originally looking at. I was originally looking at the BenQ dedicated photographer's monitor. This one is called a designer's monitor, and I was looking at the photographer's monitor. The reason I went for this one, well, actually there's a couple of reasons. The first reason being that I actually couldn't find anybody who had the photographer's monitor available, not for delivery in Spain anyway. And the second reason was the price. The photographer's monitor is more than twice the price of this one, and when I looked at the specs and thought about the realistic differences that it would likely make to me, I just didn't see the point in spending the extra money, and that's why I bought this one. It's a bit of a big beast, but hopefully it will work well for me. So what I've done already is I set the laptop up, or the MacBook up. It arrived yesterday evening. I spent an hour or so getting it set up and transferring my Lightroom catalogue and everything across. And then I spent a bit of time this morning getting the monitor set up. And a couple of things still to do. I'm going to calibrate the monitor so that I'm getting the absolute best colour from this, and then I'm going to do a few quick tests of the performance of this little MacBook and see what it does. Okay, so I calibrated the monitor using the Datacolor Spider X Pro, and pretty much as I expected, the monitor was way too bright in its default settings, but hopefully will be much more accurate now. Now I wanted to do a couple of quick tests. Some of these are a bit more scientific, so they actually involve timing things, and some of them less so, more sort of subjective. So the first test I want to do is how long does it actually take to load images from an SD card into Lightroom on this. Now I should say before I get started on this that at the moment Lightroom and Photoshop I have not been optimized to run on this new M1 chip, so it's running through an emulator. Adobe are supposed to be coming out with optimized versions sometime hopefully early 2021, and when that happens both Lightroom and Photoshop should be running quite a lot faster on this, but even so it's worth a try. So what I've got 50 images on here from my D810, so that's 50 36 megapixel full-size RAW files, and what I'm going to do is plug this into a SD card reader and see how quickly they load up onto the computer. So we'll pop the SD card into the reader. To be honest, this isn't a metric that doesn't actually bother me that much, because what I would normally do is load photos up, get them loading and then go off and do something else and then come back and process. But I thought this one would be interesting to do, so I'm going to call it import and start at the same time, and let's see how long it takes to import these. And of course this isn't always necessarily a representation of the speed of the computer, because the SD card reader might be holding things up, but it's just interesting to see. I would expect it to take a little while to load up 50 images that size. On my old computer it took quite a long time. So it's doing the copy and import now. There are 30 seconds in. It's also going to be doing the previews, build, etc., because I consider that part of the import process. Finished. 2 minutes and 4 seconds to load 36 megapixel full raw images from an SD card and build smart previews and one-to-one previews. That's not bad. I'm quite happy with that. As I said, it's not a metric that I'm normally that bothered with, because I would normally just set them running and then leave them. And now it's time for the next test. This is a more subjective test, because what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start the upload in exactly the same way, but as soon as it starts, I'm going to go into the develop module and start seeing if I can work on the images. I mean, they're just rubbish shots of the office, but I just want to see if I can work on them without a lot of lag and problems. So let's give that a go, shall we? So I click on import. Started. Let's just give it a few seconds, pick an image, go into the develop module, and now we'll go highlights down, shadows up, adjust the exposure a bit, vibrance up, saturation down, make it a bit bluer, a bit more magenta. There's no lag in here, it's still loading, but there's absolutely no issue. Let's move on to another image a bit further along. Let's play around with that one. Bring the exposure, exposure down, exposure up, contrast, highlights, shadows. Let's try a local adjustment. So I'll drop in a gradient, bring the exposure down, bring the contrast up. Now, it doesn't really matter what I'm doing with this, it's still working. There's no lag, there's no problems. So I consider that to be, pretty good performance. I would have no issues with that. And it means if I am in a hurry to process some images, I can be. Okay, smart previews are built, so it's not even the processing I'm doing isn't holding up the loading process. So the next test is what was the nemesis of my old computer, and that's a pano. So what I've done here is I've gone back into the archives and I've pulled out a load of raw files for a panorama. This was a panorama I shot at the marina here, and there's 15 vertical 36 megapixel raw files here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and select them all, and then I'm going to get my stopwatch ready again. I'm going to go photo merge and panorama, and it's now, it's created the preview literally in 3.5 seconds, which would have taken ages, I'm sure, on my old computer. So now let's see how long it actually takes to do the merge. I'm going to do a bit of a boundary warp in here. And then I'll take the auto settings off, and then I'm going to click merge and see how long it takes to merge this image. One minute, 33 seconds, 34 seconds, and it's created the panorama. Happy with that. And now we've got another one of those subjective tests to do, because the problem I used to have was you'd create a large panorama and then trying to actually do anything with it, Lightroom would lag and struggle. So let's just open that up in the develop module, and we'll have a quick look. So this is 23,498 by 60, 23,498 by 6,808. So this is pretty much 160 megapixels. So let's go in, we'll start off with the lens corrections. What we're seeing here is I've got a strong magenta cast on the left of the image and a more greeny cast on the right, so I'm going to use a gradient tool to balance it out. So let's just drag that across there and pull that back a bit more to the greens and maybe the blues, and then on the opposite side. I'm not really doing anything serious with this, I'm just trying to work out, you know, if it's got any problems. Just do a little bit of a crop on it. Like that. I'm going to leave a little bit of white edges on it to sort out, because what I want to do now is see how it works in Photoshop. So let's edit in Photoshop. Okay. So there's the image in Photoshop. That only took about 30 seconds, if that, to open. Create a duplicate layer. And then let's see, just bring down the fraction. Let's see what we can do about these white edges. So I'm going to use the magic wand tool. Click on that white corner. Oops, no, not that bit. That white edge just there. And edit, fill, content aware. And it's done that perfectly. Yeah. Let's try this one over here, do the same. Edit, fill, content aware. Yeah, no problem. I mean, this is processing this absolutely brilliantly. Okay. And then file, close, let it save back to Lightroom. Saving now. And again, big file, so it's going to take a few seconds. And there is the image in Lightroom, processed, you know, lightning fast compared to what I was used to. I'm pretty happy with that. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with what I've seen so far. Obviously time will tell as I use the setup even more. I'm loving the big screen. I think the performance is great. Yeah, you know, maybe if I'd waited and got one of the new desktops with an M1 processor in, it would have been lightning fast. But I think Lightroom and Photoshop are going to get faster when they get these native versions out. And you know, it's not as if I'm a commercial photographer that needs to process hundreds or thousands of images really quickly. You know, I can take my time. I just got fed up with all of the crashing, and this does give me the flexibility that I can go and do some work elsewhere in the house or in other places, and hopefully at some point we'll be able to start doing some traveling again. I can do some multi-day trips, and it means that I can do a little bit of processing in a hotel room or whatever, rather than waiting and having to do everything when I get back and being really busy for 2 or 3 days. Yeah, I'm happy with it. I haven't done any serious video editing on it, but I use iMovie. iMovie, I believe, is optimized for the M1 chip, so it should absolutely fly, I would think. And hopefully this means I can get back into doing a few more post-processing videos, and of course in the future I would show you a normal screen recording rather than just looking over my shoulder. And the reason I didn't want to do that in this particular video was I didn't want the screen recording slowing down and affecting the tests that I was doing on the new computer. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed it. The next video will be an in the field video. Sneak peek coming up at the end of this, so hang on for a few seconds and you'll get to see what's coming. I hope you've enjoyed this one. If you have, please give it a like, share it on social media. Don't forget to leave me a comment, let me know what you think. Don't forget about hitting subscribe if you like this type of video, or at least landscape photography type videos. And as always, I really appreciate you taking the time to watch, so thank you very much. And until the next video, bye. Hi everybody, look at that sky. Oh, it's gorgeous. Above the horizon we've got those gorgeous coloured skies.